Hey guys, it's Corey from CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, and I wanted to tell you about the movie I saw last night at Regal LA Live, Molly's Game, written directed by Aaron Sorkin. I figured, as part of what I was going to do here with new short form video content I was going to be producing, is that I would talk about movies that I've seen, the theaters that I saw them at, and sort of general thoughts from my perspective as somebody who's had experience throughout the entire filmmaking process as to what I saw, what I would improve, general thoughts about movies and the experiences I have seeing them. As I said, last night I saw Molly's Game at the Regal LA Live, which is pretty much the closest theater to my house. And I love it. I think that for a while there, mostly in like the 90s, there was sort of like this dullness to multiplexes, but from Maryland, I think a lot of that changed the first time I went to the Egyptian, and it had this very grand feeling. And the Regal LA Live has that same sort of feel. It's a big multiplex. It's a 14 screener, and it takes up a lot of square footage down at LA Live. But it's a really cool place to go see a movie. Really comfortable. It all feels very new. They do a great job of upkeep there. And they have a lot of extras, like you could do the 40X showings and stuff like that. But there is no point in doing 40X for Molly's Game because this is Aaron Sorkin's directorial debut. Now, Aaron Sorkin has pretty much from the first that I ever heard of him as the showrunner on Sports Night, have been a huge fan. He's my number one writer working today, and number one writer for many people out there. And this was as Aaron Sorkin-y as Aaron Sorkin gets as far as Molly's Game goes. So the general story is about Molly Bloom, who we are sort of catching up with through flashbacks in this autobiographical manner that sort of follows along with the book that she released about her being the head of secret underground poker games that happened in Los Angeles and New York, and her insistence on keeping certain aspects of who played and who was involved under wraps. Throughout the entire movie, the thread is that she doesn't want to sort of give these people up, even when it seems like the easy and logical choice to do so. Idris Elba plays her lawyer, Charlie Jaffe, and Kevin Costner plays Molly's father. I loved everybody involved. Jessica Chastain always brings it. Idris Elba always brings it. Kevin Costner is one of those actors who I always sort of wanted to see do a Sorkin production. I remember way back in The West Wing, Christian Slater played a small role for season 4, I want to say season 3 or 4, and it was one of those great matchups where you get somebody who has a very particular style and a very well-ingrained personality to sort of try and do this fast-paced Sorkin dialogue. And I was not disappointed at all with how Costner played it. He was very strong in it. I think the number one thing I would say about Molly's Game is that Sorkin knew when to just let the people around him sort of have the show. I mean, it didn't seem like he stepped in too much. It just seems more like he got really great department heads and just let them do what they do best and let him focus on the story and getting the most out of all the performances that he could throughout the entirety of the movie. As far as critiques of Molly's Games goes, I and believe me, I say anytime I ever make a critique here, it's out of a place of love, because I know firsthand how difficult it is to make a movie, and how mistakes happen, and sometimes you end up with these little things that make it into the final product that aren't the exact idealization of what you thought. I mean, I think throughout almost any movie, any great movie, even with auteur directors, you will find 4 or 5 little moments that seem like they're a little bit off, and Molly's Game was no different. I think the only things I wish I had a little bit more of walking out was, I felt that the limiter wasn't really taken off of Idris Elba or Jessica Chastain at moments where I really would have loved to let the Sorkin dialogue really, like, just let them give that, like, all-time great performance that is just right underneath the surface for both these guys. And I just didn't feel like I got that all-time great moment from either Idris Elba or Jessica Chastain. It felt like the comparison I made to Rob last night when we were leaving the theater was that it's like you had 2 Ferraris and they can both go 200 miles an hour, and you didn't let them get over 140. Like, they were both really fast. They were both really fun performances, and they were great. It just felt like you could have just pushed it just a little bit more, and for whatever reason, it just didn't come off on film. Now, this is Sorkin's directorial debut after years and years as a screenwriter, so I imagine that in future projects, other things that he will direct in the future, so I'm sure he's going to start directing a lot more now, he will find the space within to really dig those performances out of people. The only other thing that the only other small critique I have is that there were times, not too often, but there were times where the framing and the pacing and the way that the movie progressed felt more like TV than film. And you can understand, because so much of Sorkin's experience is from TV. For a moment in particular, there's a moment in the courtroom at the end that just felt kind of not to put down anybody. It felt more Law and Order than it did major Hollywood feature film. But overall, I think it's a real win for Sorkin. As much as I love seeing his scripts in the hands of great auteur directors, like especially like Fincher in The Social Network, like, sticks out right at the top of my mind. I'm excited to see this new place that Sorkin is going with his directorial efforts, and I'm really looking forward to future projects from him and where he will go from here, because he certainly hasn't lost a step with the dialogue. Maybe if there's one other little tiny thing, even though I love it, I'm all about dialogue all the time, especially very flourished dialogue. There were times where I feel like if you had a more senior director involved, they would have given it a little bit more spacing, and not so much like run right into the next scene filled with dialogue and then to the next scene filled with dialogue. There'd be that little breath every so often in between scenes that would help give the audience more of a gasp of air. But I mean, it really, there were only a couple times where I thought of that, and maybe if you found a way to make the movie 10, 15 minutes shorter, then you wouldn't even really notice that either. I'm more of the mind to let directors have that extra 10 to 15 minutes, because I don't think you think about it so much other than after the first time you've seen it. But this will definitely be something that gets added to the DVD collection, because I'm still one of those people who buys DVDs. And I probably may see it again at some point before it leaves theaters, because I really thoroughly enjoyed it. On the 1 out of 10 scale, I give it a solid 8. And would definitely recommend that everyone go see it, especially if you have MoviePass like I do, because you should really see everything if you have MoviePass. There's no excuse. But that's it. That's my inaugural movie review. I'm so glad you guys decided to tune in. Obviously, you can find this and a whole lot more at CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm. And on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, at LegendCB5. Everything will be available in the information below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have any thoughts on my opinions of Molly's Game, put it down in the comments below. Share, let all your friends know. I'm really excited to start doing a lot more movie reviews based off of the things I see, and I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are. Peace.